Good evening. I've wanted to make this video for some time. Bear with me. It's out there, but it's fact, and you can go away and you can research it. Global warming, climate change. A lot of beliefs being pushed out there that man's to blame and that man's contributed to it. This is so very wrong. There is nothing that we could have done to prevent what's happening now, and I'm going to show you why and tell you why and explain why. This planet has been designed with a beautiful fail-safe switch, because let's look where we are as a species. We're on the verge of destroying ourselves, not so much destroying the planet, but making conditions uninhabitable that we as a species couldn't thrive in. So we can see from our own example, any species that thrives in totality, where it's the apex species, you give it long enough and over time things become out of control, things become unbalanced. So nature does this thing. Every 25,000 years there's a fail-safe, there's a reset switch where the planet's climate seems to change dramatically, having adverse effects on the population on the planet at the time regarding all living creatures. Now this happens every 25,000 years, and I'll give examples. Some 75,000 years ago there was the supervolcanic eruption, biggest one known, and it was the Toba eruption. Now there's some debate as to whether it's linked, but around the same time, around 70,000 years ago, 75,000 years ago, there was a massive bottleneck in the amount of humans on the planet. Anywhere between 100 and 1,000 breeding pairs of humans left. Some theorise it was because of the volcanic winter that happened because of the supervolcano eruption. But basically, what was remaining of Homo sapiens kind of clumped together and survived. And I reckon it took a few thousand years for them to get out of this state. And then that's what became the Stone Age. It's kind of man rebuilding itself. So that was 75,000 years ago, which on this 25,000 year cycle, that was 3 cycles back. If we fast forward now to 50,000 years ago, you have something called the Upper Paleolithic period, where allegedly it was raining for 20,000 years in Africa. Rivers were formed, lakes were formed, swamps were formed. This is when our modern ancestors started to thrive. 50,000 years ago, there was a climatic shift, climatic change. Africa become green. So that's 2 cycles ago. Go away and check any of this. 1 cycle ago, 25,000 years ago. I've got to just go back 5,000 years to 30,000 years ago first. 30,000 years ago on this planet, the glaciers, the ice, North Pole, South Pole, the ice sheets, that's the word I was looking for, were at the maximum. Northern Europe, all them kind of parts covered in ice. 25,000 years ago, 1 cycle ago, the ice started thawing, rapidly started thawing. This is where you get your flood stories in the Bible. There's also 270 different versions of the flood story from antiquity, from different cultures from around the world. So this was a global phenomenon. Around 20,000 years ago, the Aborigines in Australia have a folklore, a story that they tell, a tale where the giant turtle rose from the ocean. Now, everyone thought that was just a story in Aboriginal folklore, but it turned out that the Great Barrier Reef was actually formed 20,000 years ago. A piece of ice that big, I'm guessing in Antarctica, is that right, the South Pole, broke off, and they reckon it was that huge that snapped off. It sent a 1,000 foot tidal wave in kind of all directions, and this rose up, and in one moment, in one instantaneous moment, bang, the barrier reef of Australia was formed because the waters were much shallower before. There were really interesting examples, and there's more. Homo sapiens, us humans, we're the last surviving bipedal creature. There were more than us. There were the Denisovans, which there's not many remains of them, which is odd. So I'm guessing they're probably under the ocean, because a lot of our ancestors always built towns on coastal lines because it was more practical for fishing, for transporting goods. When these sea levels suddenly rose, as in the case of Australia 20,000 years ago, and the ice cap started thawing out, I imagine there's a lot of history under the ocean. So coming to present day, we can see it. The world's getting wetter. The ice caps, it's still the ongoing process of the ice caps thawing out. Crazy fires in Australia, I think I've mentioned that, maybe I haven't. It's just strange weather phenomenon elsewhere. Rains in parts of the world that have never had such heavy rains. Right, so there's kind of the proof of what's happening and proof that this has happened before. The Neanderthals, another similar species to us. It's common belief among scientists that they got wiped out through climate change. That when the ice age happened, they couldn't cope. They were hunter-gatherers, foragers in the forest, never killed live animals. They couldn't cope with the ice age and died out. So, all this idea that climate change, global climate change is a man-made thing, think again. Nature's got one up on man. Man will never destroy this planet because we are nature. We're nature embodied. Anyone who can say we're not, it's ridiculous because we are the living embodiment of nature. We grow out this planet. And luckily this planet, like I said earlier, has a fail-safe. But from what I'm going to tell you now, it seems all planets in the solar system will have this fail-safe, all planets in the universe. There's a reset. What this goes back to is something that the Mayans, as I said earlier, warned about in 2012. The end of the long count, which was around 25,000 years. Now, what they knew was that there was three movements that was important to Earth. There was the movement of rotation, which created the day-night. The Earth travelled around the sun. And as the Earth travelled around the sun and rotated 365 times, they knew that that was a year, as it went all the way around the sun. But then there was this third movement, and it regards our solar system itself. And as our solar system travels through space as fast as it can, or as fast as it does, as fast as it can is the wrong word, as fast as it does, as it's doing it, as it's spinning and travelling through space, the constellations around us, the stars surrounding us, move position, and this rotation is 1 degree every 72 years. And 30 degree makes up each constellation because there's 12 star signs in the 360 degree circle. We've just entered the age of Pisces in December 2012, and what happened was on the winter solstice, if you looked out, I think it would be at sunrise or before sunrise, there would be a constellation that sits above the sun. Now it isn't like 2,500 years, it just switches to the next one. It's a gradual, like I said, 1 degree every 72 years. And what happened on December 2012 was we moved into the age of Pisces. No, sorry, into the age of Aquarius. Now this is where our ancestors was clever, or were clever. What's the star sign for Aquarius? It's an urn pouring water. Call the water. This has been warned about. This is called the precession of the equinox. This is the third movement, what's has an effect on Earth. So, just going to have a quick look at my notes because I've made sure I don't leave stuff out. So it's not man-made at all, and it's something that we couldn't have avoided, and it's something that people need to stop being fearful about. Why do we need to not be scared about it? Because there's nothing that can be done. We might not see the big significant changes in our lifetime. In fact, our children might not see the big significant changes in their lifetime because we're talking ages of thousands, a couple of thousand years, how this process takes. What is important to understand here is the rewriting of our history books regarding the kind of story on Earth, and this explains why a lot of things don't make sense. when you look closely at ancient civilizations, the Great Pyramid, the watermarks on the Sphinx, which has baffled scientists for a while now, because it's clearly got watermarks, and the last time it rained heavy in Africa was 18,000 years ago. So these buildings are much older than what the books are telling us. We seem to have this idea, this concept, that the time is linear. If you want to see how time works, look at nature and the cycles. Time is circular. And it seems that man didn't start over here and man has got to here. Man has peaked. One of these disasters happens, these natural climatic changes. Earth shakes a thing and does what she needs to do to make sure no one's taking over and being stupid. As we've shown that can happen after 25,000 years of kind of real no knocks and no problems. What point was I making? Yeah, it's cyclical. So, where we've thought that man was kind of prehistoric and caveman back here, and we got to where we are today, yippee, woohoo, well done. No, man's peaked before, hence the Great Pyramid, hence why no one seems to know where it was put up. We've built civilizations on structures and new civilizations on the rubble without realising, and the gravestone of our ancestors that are all around us. And that changes a lot. That changes a hell of a lot. I hope that made sense. That's the precession of the equinox, that's climatic change, and that's global warming in a nutshell. There's nothing we can do about it. Yeah, we can stop sticking plastic in the oceans. That'd be lovely for the animals. But we can't do nothing regarding this change. On a quick note, this is something that is quite worrying, and not worrying, that's the wrong word, but it's something to take heed of. As the planet gets warmer and the planet gets wetter, the conditions are going to support bacteria and viruses that have never been supported for life that well before. I truly believe this is why Ebola popped up a few years ago as strong as it did, and probably why this new coronavirus strains come to light. There's going to be a lot more of these things popping up. The planet is getting warmer, the planet is getting wetter, and the planet's getting windier. Whatever's happening across the Atlantic with them weather systems, it's getting much windier too. So, how can you at least combat the bacterial changes? You can combat that by moving and evolving and doing the right thing by nature. Nature's got all these fail-safe methods. Don't poison your body, do the occasional fast, drink plenty of water, you'll evolve with this planet. And these bacteria that come and these new viruses, the best chance you've got of fighting them is having a strong immune system. And a strong immune system is a fasted immune system and a body that is, during the times of feeding, is looked after nutritionally. Correct vitamins, proper veg, proper fruit and plenty of fresh water. On that note, I hope I haven't scared any of you. And I'm wondering how many people are sitting there thinking, it's just made some sense, or thinking, it's crazy. Got to the point where I don't care about either or. I love all of you the same. Peace out. Enjoy your life.